We're funny people here at Pragmatic Works.
I don't know. Making fun of the Amish, though, that's kind of like it's like
Well, they're never going to know,
move.
though.
That's true. That's true. Well, I'll just get emails from all the Amish.
From all the Amish.
There is a great Amish dating site. It's great, funny.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to start in just a couple of minutes, and Brian will be discussing upgrading DTS packages to SSIS. And as always, the session is being recorded and will be available on our website by the end of the week under past webinars.
There you go, Rachel. It's Amish-dating, Amish-online-dating.com.
Now, that doesn't make any sense.
It's a flower along a graveled pathway.
How can
I don't understand how they would have websites.
How do they have websites? How do they have access to the internet? These are like bad Amish. These are rebel Amish dating sites.
It is. It's
which I find even more intriguing.
Yeah, you can just come in and measure. Rachel, you ready to do this?
I'm ready. You want to launch your first poll?
All right. I'll launch our first poll. So this is a DTS migration party here. So in an effort to kind of bring all the people together that do DTS, we want to start with a pity party here first and find out who has the most amount of DTS packages to convert. So I launched a poll here to kind of walk us through, see who we need to sympathize the most. And you'll see here it talks about how many DTS packages you have to convert. Let's see how long that takes. Okay. Seems like most people have dozens. All right. Rachel, I guess that's good enough. We'll kind of go with that. Let me show these.
Wow, dozens was definitely the winner there.
All right, so it looks like most of you guys have dozens. There's one poor soul that has thousands of DTS packages. The record I've seen was one company had about 120,000 DTS packages to convert. Now, how they came with those many packages, who knows, but not a good site for them. And then lastly, so I know what to kind of gear towards you is what kind of DTS experience you have presently. Or SSIS experience, excuse me, SSIS experience. Okay, I'm seeing kind of quite a big mixture here, looks like. It's funny, when I asked this question close to 2 years ago, it was almost the exact opposite. I had probably 60% that had no experience, and then most everybody was in the novice to moderate range. All right.
Interesting. A lot more people are in the middle range now.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
In no small part thanks to Pragmatic Works.
All right, so Rachel, I'm going to take control of the presenter rights here. So give me 1 second here. Thanks for kicking us off, though. And just for those that are very curious, there's our Amish dating site right there. I thought you appreciate that, Rachel. So yes, you can. Oh, I need to actually hide that poll, don't I? Let's see here.
Yeah.
Where's the poll? Everybody can see the Amish dating site. There we go.
Not better, though.
Now you see the Amish dating site. Yeah. All right. So let's get started. So this session today is all about DTS conversion. Oh, that's not the right one. That's SharePoint BI. There we go. DTS conversion. So Rachel, we're getting a little bit of background noise. Could you mute?
Yep, no problem.
Okay. So my email address is on the screen now. It's united@pragmaticworks.com. We'll cover a number of ways to convert DTS packages to SSIS. This may not take the whole hour because it's actually a little bit, the news a little bit more bleak now than it used to be, which we'll talk in a second. A little bit myself, I'm Brian Knight. I'm the founder of Pragmatic Works. My Twitter handle is @BrianKnight, hard enough. I'm a SQL Server MVP out of Jacksonville, Florida. And I'm also the founder of Pragmatic Works, as I mentioned a second ago. I've authored a few SQL Server books, none of which have been published, but you get the idea. And I also blog at a site called BIDN.com. That's the BI Developer Network. It's a free community website for those that are in the BI profession to learn more about SQL Server BI. So before I begin, I thought we're a little quirky here, and I thought I'd share some of the quirky ad campaigns that we've tried to get people to convert from DTS to SSIS, and really around like what happened when we did this. So first of all, we had this great campaign idea. This was actually over a number of adult beverages. I won't quite tell you how many adult beverages, but needless to say, oh, it helps if I actually share my desktop. Oh, that stinks. Nobody's seen my desktop before. All right. So we had enough. Thank you very much for saying that. I would have completely missed that. So we had a number of fact-filled ad campaigns that have been pulled and different varying degrees. So our first campaign that we started was the "How big is your DTS package?" We just forgot a word there about how big is your package, and it was basically a campaign to get people to convert. It played on a number of websites until we did get some complaints. Go figure. I didn't realize there's a double connotation behind the word package. Anyways, next we had this campaign about the top 10 reasons to manually convert, and then this one campaign right here featuring Satan wearing an Oracle shirt raised a lot of concern for some reason. So people didn't like Satan telling them to do things, I guess. So that was a real big concern. And then lastly, I lost a bet. And this campaign I had to feature on my blog for a number of months, and it was our graphic artist that I lost a bet to. And basically, it's you should manually convert, or Brian Knight will steal your soul. So unfortunately, this one has to remain in every DTS conversion slide deck that I have since I lost that bet. This campaign will live in infamy. So let's get started. And by the way, in case you're curious about the upcoming weirdness we have coming on. We have an upcoming weird campaign with the webinar BI Smackdown coming up next month, so in September. So you'll see that blog post later today. So the weirdness will begin. All right. So what we have now is basically our agenda for the rest of this hour is going about how do we map our DTS skills over to SSIS. We'll spend only a few minutes on that since most of you guys have a fair amount of SSIS skills already. There's a few things you want to kind of point out there. We'll then talk about how you run DTS packages, a legacy mode under 2005 and 2008. Then we'll focus on how we actually upgrade those DTS packages. And lastly, how do we convert those active scripts that are kind of lingering in our packages. So first of all, why are we even upgrading from SSIS to DTS to SSIS? Well, the first reason is really around 64-bit. We're buying these beefy servers now to support SQL Server. And it's almost darn near impossible to buy a 32-bit machine anymore. They're pretty much all 64-bit, aren't they? And because of that, DTS only runs in 32-bit. So you have this big beefy box, and you're only using a fraction of the CPU because you can't utilize that full 64-bit machine. So that's one reason. Also, this is a big fancy word here, parallel enabled multi-buffer architecture, all those kind of things. Basically is letting us know that it's just much, much faster. And I'll quantify how much faster it is in a moment. We also get some logging configurations kind of built into it. We have restartability, which is a really nice feature as well. And lastly, we can also integrate with source control like TFS or Subversion or whatever the case may be very, very easily. So those kind of things are all built in. And one last thing, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, is in DTS we had 12 components that were built into the product. Now we have 87 components that are built in the product, and that's not including the ones that are on, I think, places like CodePlex or commercial products like Task Factory. Task Factory alone has 30 new tasks and transforms that you can get access to. So the partner ecosystem is much stronger than it used to be in ETS. People are actually using this for a full ETL platform. All right, so how much faster is it really? Well, in some core tests that we did here at Pragmatic Works, we saw about a 65% gain in performance over DTS on the same machine. Now, this was an old test, an older test. So you see here the SQL Server destination is actually a little bit faster in this case. Unfortunately, that's no longer true. The SQL Server destination inside of SSIS is really a wash now. It used to be about 8 to 10% faster, but unfortunately now it's actually could potentially be slower, and it might be deprecated in the future release also. The reason why it's slower now, or a wash, is because in SQL Server 2005 Service Pack 2, they closed some security loopholes that the SSIS, that SQL Server destination was using, and it actually made the destination much slower after doing that. So there's some tricks and pieces around that. To also quantify this, we had a customer recently who had about 7,000 lines of T-SQL code to load a dimension. We converted that to an SSIS package, and basically the old code was loading a staging area, updating 38 times, doing updates against hundreds of millions of rows. So when they had this, was taking about 4.5 hours to run. They converted to SSIS, which is an in-memory architecture, and we saw that package ran about 3.5 minutes when it was all done. And it became much easier to read also. So just briefly, since most of you guys already have DTS Experience, or SSIS Experience, in the past we had DTS Designer, right? This is where we would basically create our workflow. Well, this best mimics the Business Intelligence Development Studio environment and its control flow tab specifically. That's basically where you design the workflow of the package. Okay, this is a Visual Studio environment. It does have things like source control built into it, and because most of you guys have experience already there, we'll go ahead and skip the demo on that screen. We also have something new here called the Transform Data Task. Now in DTS, you have this black line you see between the source and the destination. Now this basically moves data, and it can do some light transformations, but not a whole lot of transformations was done there. So most of the time in DTS land, you would land the data into a staging table and then run T-SQL updates against that staging table. So now, however, we have a data flow task instead. The data flow task actually expands into the data flow tab here. And the data flow tab gives you a source and a whole bunch of transforms and destinations. So rather than staging data into a staging table, in some cases, it may make sense to bring the data out of the source, transform it, and all those transforms that you see on the screen right there are done in memory. So it's done much faster than actually landing data. Okay? So this is a big difference. You'll also notice that connections can also be reused as well. So before it was a much better practice to create connections, lots and lots of connections, so you can get parallel loads. Well, in SSIS, you have connection managers, and by creating that connection over to the SSIS Ops database or Northwind database or whatever, it will be created one time, and we can leverage it multiple times. So there's no longer a need to create lots and lots of connections as there used to be. Okay, I'm going to skip this demo. This is normally a quick SSIS demo. Not a whole lot of really use in it, since most of you guys already consider yourselves novices or above. All right, so what are some of the options we have to convert these packages? Some of the options we have is to run DTS under SQL Server 2005 or 2008. So it's a pros and cons of that. We'll talk about the pros and cons in a second. One thing to note, though, is if we run packages in 2005 or 2008 as SQL Server, that these DTS packages are always going to run in 32-bit mode. Also, we're going to miss something called package logs, and I'll go deeper into that in a second. We can also upgrade these packages with the Microsoft Wizard. Now, this works for a limited set of packages and typically gives you about a 30 to 40% success rate. You can upgrade the packages with a third-party tool. That's one of the things that we do here. And this will usually convert in about minutes per package, but it does have a licensing cost. And lastly, you can start from scratch. Now, you typically want to budget, this is very conservative effort here, but typically you want to budget about 3 to 6 hours per package to convert those packages. Now, if it's a heavy package with a lot of logic inside of it, you want to budget potentially days per package. We've actually converted over 500,000 packages here at Pragmatic Works, and that 3 to 6 hour number is generally the right number to kind of estimate. So let's talk about, first of all, running packages under compatibility mode. Now, SQL Server 2005, 2008, and 2008 R2 all have a compatibility mode you can run it under. There's a few things you'll need to do this. You'll need to actually install the BTS compatibility kit, backwards compatibility kit. So this backwards compatibility kit can be as part of the SQL Server 2008 or 2005 feature pack. You'll also, if you want to make some small changes to those DTS packages, you'll need to get the DTS Designer components, and we'll talk about those in a second also. Now, the pro of this is it kind of pushes off that upgrade hurdle. You can get that server upgraded to SQL Server 2005 or 2008 faster by doing that, and you're delaying your problem, right? That's a pro. Well, every yin has a yang, and the yang in this case is you cannot easily create brand new DTS packages. Logging in this case is actually turned off, so you can turn on logging but all the logging views that you had before to see where the package actually broke are not there. This will only work also in 32-bit mode of SQL Server. So DTS Designer is only a 32-bit tool also, so we have some issues around that. And there's also some things like in Denali, this is no longer supported. So you're only delaying the inevitable until you get to SQL Server Denali, the next version of SQL Server. At that time, this feature and all the features therein go away around the supporting of DTS packages. So we can finally say, ding dong, the witch is dead when it comes to this. Philip's asking some questions here about are there any functions at DTS that are no longer supported in SSIS? And there are some. So some of the things we'll talk about in a second are going to be things like the analysis versus processing task. We'll talk about OLAP processing tasks in. If you want to process a SQL Server 2000 analysis services database, you'll need to kind of stay in DTS mode for a little bit longer. There's also something called the data-driven query task. That is no longer gone also. And that task has been replaced with a new pattern, which I'll show you in a second also. So there's 2 tasks that are actually gone now in this release. ActiveX script is still there for one more release. Question here from Jane, I think, Gene. Can you have SSIS packages run concurrently? You absolutely can. And you can have your DTS packages run with SSIS mode, and I'll show those in a moment also. Great question. Okay. So as far as one of the common errors you're going to get when you try to run this, one of the key errors you're going to get is running backwards compatibility mode. You'll need to install the DTS Designer components. However, most PCs and most laptops in this case are running 64-bit mode now, you'll find. So you cannot actually get it to work by default. So let me show you how we'll fix that. Let me go over here real quick. Now, I'm going to bring over a blog, and you can search for DTS packages in 2000 for Mike Davis. And in this blog, you're going to see that basically you have to install the feature kit. So let me actually hop out real quick and go to the feature pack. So this is a very specific feature pack, by the way. It's a 2005 feature pack, believe it or not. And you'll do this for 2008 or 2005, it doesn't matter. So as I'm kind of scrolling down here, the first thing you'll see is you want to install the backwards compatibility kit. I'll just kind of do a quick search for that, backwards. There it is. All right, this will allow you to run packages in SQL Server 2005 or 2008. The next thing you want to install, that will actually that's 90% of the work right there, is the DTS Designer components. Now notice in this case, it only comes in 32-bit flavor. So this will allow you to open up a DTS package in 2005 or 2008. Now, unfortunately, if you're a 32-bit machine, this works great. However, if you're a 64-bit machine or if you're on SQL Server 2008, this is going to have issues also. So this backwards compatibility kit, notice it's only for SQL Server 2005. So if I hop out over to Mike's blog again, you'll notice you want to copy some files over to these locations. So this, after you install that program, it's putting the DLL files, well, it's putting it in the wrong directory. So you'll want to copy them from the 32-bit directory over to the SQL Server 2005 directory, which is 8.0. Notice it's actually copying it from the 8.0 directory here to the 100 directory, or SQL Server 2008. So this is basically getting the DTS Designer components to work in SQL Server 2008 or 2008 R2. So that's one of the catches there. So you'll notice in my case that I have done that. I'm able to actually right-click and actually import packages. So once we do that, let me open up this, let's bring this over. You'll see DTS right here. You'll be able to right-click and open packages, point to a package, and when I hit open, it would actually run that. And here's the error I'm getting right now, and this is actually the same error you'll receive as well. This error is showing that I don't have the backwards compatibility, the DTS Designer components installed. And then the error in my case is because I'm using 2008 R2. I copied these files over to 2008 running my script, but not the 10.5 directory. So that's what's giving my grief right now. I need to kind of retool this script to make it work in 2008 R2. And to do that, you'll just change the directory right there to 10.5. All right, so that is the how to run a backwards compatibility kit mode. You'll notice you can actually import packages right here. So if I right-click and say import package, it will bring the package in the DTS right here, and I can also hit open, which will actually open it interactively. I can choose to open a package a number of ways, but this is the main way you open a package. Once you see that, it's kind of a lame application. Once you actually import this package, it will collapse the tree, and I have to kind of navigate back down again and start from scratch. Okay, so that's how we can run our packages in Backwards Compatibility Kit. Let's hop back over here again. Okay. So the next option is to upgrade with the Microsoft Package Upgrade Wizard. In this case, in the Pros it's free. It works great for some of the packages. So on simple packages, which is about 20 to 30% we find, as with the study we did, it works fantastically. It does have some cons, though, so it does not handle things like ODBC. It also only works for a select amount of use cases for text files. So, for example, if you're copying data from a first name, last name kind of column, and in production you have Social Security desk, first name, customer ID, last name, and things are a little bit out of order potentially. It will have some issues with that, and potentially will load data into the wrong columns. So it has some bugs in there, so they're pretty severe. Also, there's no more dynamic properties task in SSIS, and this one component does not support dynamic properties task as far as conversions go, and I'll show what we do there in a second here. So as far as the question we saw from Gene earlier, we'll talk about how we can convert that. It also does not support UDL and some of the legacy database components also. So about 20 to 30% of the time this will work. So let me show you how we'll do this. So to access this, I'm going to right-click inside the BIDS environment. I'm going to select Migrate DTS 2000 Package Task. Okay. As I walk through this wizard, one thing to note is I can point to a SQL server and convert all the packages at one time. Or I can select Storage Structured File, browse out, and pick a package from this way. So I'll pick an ODBC package in this case. I'm going to point to a folder I'm going to convert this to. Hit Next again. And this is a pretty simple wizard. When I hit Next, it looks like, well, hot darn, it's going to just work. When I hit Finish, it walks through, I get green. So in all fairness, it looks like everything succeeded, doesn't it? I pat myself on the back. I move on to the next package. Well, unfortunately, when I close this, you'll actually see it's inside of the BIDS environment. So let's open this up and see what happened. This particular package was reading data out of MySQL, out of an ODBC provider, and loading data into a SQL server. So a few things wrong with what happened here. In this case, notice that it actually created an execute DTS package task. So even though I think I'm done, this execute DTS packages is actually running the package in DTS mode. So in other words, what's happening is I'll see my SSIS package run, and then it jumps out to an unknown place, a DTS package, and I lose track of logging for a temporary period of time. This DTS package has actually been loaded internally. So the whole package is actually running inside this SSIS package. So this DTS package is passing variables in and out. However, because it's external, I don't have any idea other than it just failed. I don't know why it failed. I just know it failed. You'll also see things like activate script tasks are still there. So inside of SSIS, when I double-click on this, when I go to scripting, this was a simple, hey, I want to see the file exists, for example. If I select this, we get this amazing new UI that you could tell that the designers of DTS spent a lot of time working on, called Notepad. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So we want to fix those kind of things. So let's go back to our next slide here. All right. So our next piece is what does the project plan look for this DTS conversion project? Well, first of all, as you can imagine, like with any scope, let's pretend that you're a consultant for your company right now, or you're a consultant by yourself right now. The great thing is there's lots of projects. We're finding for DTS conversion, we're finding that people are just now converting from DTS. So last year we saw in our line of business, our consulting company, in our software company, we saw a lot of medium businesses and tripling of large companies. This year, however, we're seeing monstrous companies are finally converting from DTS to SSIS. A few reasons why, of course, I mentioned some reasons before, but SQL Server 2000 has reached end of life. If you want to call with a support case for SQL Server 2000, it will cost you tens of thousands of dollars. One large company I know of, I won't mention any names here, they spent $92,000 getting one support case for DTS handled. One support case. Because every single developer that used to be on that DTS team has now left that DTS team. So our different parts of Microsoft, most of them aren't even in the company anymore. The last holdout that was in that team now is actually now over and as a dentist now, believe it or not. So there's all that team is now left. So yeah, so if you go to, so a question here from Rahesh, if you go out to bidn.com, and I'll put this in your chat window so you can go directly to it. There's a list of the blog on how to run and backwards compatibility kits. You can see that in the chat window right now. So again, there's a lot of projects, and if you're a consultant or a contractor, you can make specialty out of this and do very, very well right now. A lot of the big banks are just now converting over. And the big banks are the ones I'm mentioning that have hundreds of thousands of packages. 130,000 packages is an example of the project that we just put a bid on. So first step is to scope how many packages you have. Next, we're going to figure out how long, some kind of baseline of how long you think it's going to take to convert each type of task. And this is based on what kind of skills you really have, not really skills, not really a DTS thing, but it's really about you guys in this case. Then you want to use some kind of tool to get most of everything migrated over. It could be the built-in tool, it could be a third-party tool. We'll talk about some of that in a second also. Then you want to convert the ActiveX script logic after that. You test, 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 and then you hand it over to your customer, whether it be your contract company or consulting company or your internal customer to do some final testing. We typically have a SharePoint site that we do that basically has a list of all of our packages and what stage they are along the way. That's usually our methodology. We'll put every package in there, and then we'll be able to say, client, you can always sign in right now and see what state that each package is along that way. So they can always see at that point what's going on. So there is a third-party product that we make called DTS Exchange, and we've actually, this is an old number. This is actually a very, very old slide, about a 2-year-old slide. We've now converted more than 500,000 packages now, 680,000 packages we've converted now from DTS to SSIS. So basically, well, first of all, there's some free parts to it. So Rahesh, that blog post is in your chat window right now. So you're asking where that blog post is at? It's in your chat window. So just look in your chat window and go to meeting, you'll find it there. It's at bidn.com though, BI Developer Network. So you'll find that it basically will profile your DTS packages to find out how long of a project you have. Now that project can be used, that part is part of a free tool. So if you're a consultant or if you're a contractor or an even internal company, you can use the profiler tool to figure out how big of a project you have. That's free. It can also convert from 2000 to 2005, 2008, and soon Denali as well. It will also handle things like logging, has an event framework inside of it. And we also have other stuff to convert ActiveX scripts later as well. So it does handle about 95% of the projects that we handle. It will handle almost 100%. And it will handle it very, very fast. And you can convert thousands of packages an hour by doing this. It handles things like ODBC and null handling and all those kind of things as well as the dynamic properties task. So enough about this. Let me actually jump into a demo. And let's start, first of all, with the first piece of our project, which is really around profiling our packages. Let me go and close this real quick. Close this project. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a free tool now. And you can get this from pragmaticworks.com. And what we're going to do is we're going to profile our DTS packages to figure out how big of a project we have. So what you do is you download DTS Exchange. And again, there's a free piece to it called the profiling piece. There's videos built into it to kind of walk you along the way. So my first step is to go in here and figure out how big of a project I have. To do that, my first step is to go in and actually add all my SQL servers right here. So I go through, type my SQL Server location, whether it be a SQL Server or a folder, and hit Add Location. After I do that, I can also, if I wanted to, just say, hey, find all my SQL servers in my environment. I know I've got a lot of them. I just don't know where they're at. Chances are you're going to find that close to half your packages aren't even being used anymore. So if I add all my storage locations right here, we'll scan all of those in one step. When I hit Next, I hit Select All to add all my packages to our profile. Now, there's also a checkbox here if I was looking at packages that were on a SQL server. There's also a checkbox here to find out which jobs those are scheduled with. So you can also do that. If you have those packages running under SQL Server mode, you can find out exactly what agent job they're scheduled with and was it recently succeeded or failed. That will let you know. So let's hit Next. Now, we now want to specify, based on our experience, on your experience in this case, how much time you want to allocate for each type of DTS task. So for example, I'm going to allocate 2 hours to convert an ActiveX script task. Now, in reality, that may be an hour and a half, so you can type over that. Now, with DTS Exchange, using it automatically, I'm going to allocate an hour to test that. So we can put our numbers here. These numbers that we have are typically fine for most environments. Now, Gene was asking the question earlier about which tasks are not supported inside of SSIS. And you'll see here, like data inquiry task, we're allocating more time for those areas right here. Okay. So we're seeing all those. We're also seeing things like dynamic properties, tasks, all those kind of things we're allocating time. The areas in green, DTS Exchange handles 100%. The areas in yellow will be handled after the conversion, and we give you some tools to help there. And the areas in red, we don't really see, frankly, a whole lot of people doing this. So in those areas, I've only seen one customer out of the 500,000 packages, 600,000 packages that actually uses those tasks. We didn't really invest a whole lot in those pieces. You'll also find here that we want to allocate a certain amount of time for testing. Well, if we convert it manually, we probably need more time for testing. So I'm going to allocate 2 hours for that, or a half an hour for this. We then want to put our salary of how much time we're going to allocate for actually converting this, dollar figure-wise. So let's give it $60 an hour or $50 an hour, whatever our time cost is for this. Next, we can also say I want to render this report as a really detailed report, which takes a little longer to run. And we can also check only scan for packages that have certain types of components in it. So when I hit Next, it's going to start converting. So let's type password. I have a password here for a few of my packages. If I remember it, it's been a while since this demo. Hopefully that was it. Maybe not. Okay, it looks to be it. All right. So then it opens up a reporting services report that shows me how long it's going to take to convert these packages. So Keith's asking a great question. Will it support things like the encryption in my packages? So if the agent piece does not actually read that and actually recognize that as a DTS job at that point. So it will not recognize that, unfortunately. So it's a great question about the encryption option. So as I kind of scroll down, we can first of all see what is going to be 100% converted for us. Okay? What areas will have some work to do after that is 16%. We can also see here that we're looking at about a 143-hour project. So if I'm a contractor or a consultant or trying to put something in a project plan, this number right here is what I would put in the project plan. I feel comfortable enough with that project plan that I typically will do a fixed bid in many cases. Most of our DTS conversion projects are fixed bid. We also have a DTS number, DTS Exchange number here also. If DTS Exchange converted those packages, those 26 packages, I would be able to finish up in about 17 hours in this case. So as I scroll down, we'll see the number of types of tasks that are being used. We see we had 378 lines of ActiveX script code. Well, if I kind of look this deeper, we can see these are the packages that are actually doing it. And we can also see later what types of functions they're using as well. As I kind of scroll down deeper, we can see the type of providers that are being used. Well, some of these providers, like this ODBC package right here, is actually using MySQL. And that MySQL provider might actually give you problems. If you go out to our website, you'll see a list under VIDN, a list of providers that are no longer supported in SSIS. There are some interesting ones there. However, there are some third-party providers that do replace those. But there are some, I said they're not supported. They will work in many cases, but they like for example, Informix, might give you some weirdness. So there's some third-party components you might have to download and install to make those work. And then we get, the picture I'm trying to create a project plan right now. Before, I've got to open up each package to figure out what in the world this project's going to cost. Now I can look it down here and say, all right, this ODBC package, you're not even using it anymore. I haven't run that package in 2 years, but it looks like it's going to cost me 4.8 hours to convert this package. Mr. Customer, are you sure you want to do this? Is it worth $244 of my time to convert this? So if I'm an employee, I worked out my salary number in there, so we can specify here, the project manager, how much it's going to cost. So there's also pieces we can look at and say, oh, in DTS Exchange it costs $29 to convert here in this case. So this is a package-by-package breakdown. At the very bottom, we can see what kind of parameters you passed in to come up with these numbers. So what I typically do is I'll have my clients run this as a contracting company or consulting company. I'll have them run this, and I can also see at the bottom here what kind of parameters they passed in. So I'm going to make sure they're legitimate. And I say, customer, you create your own statement of work now. So they check all the stuff. Andy, that's a great idea. So Andy's question is, hey, is there any other conversion, is there any functionality we can add for other kinds of projects? I like that. So what other kind of projects are you looking at wanting to do? I love the idea, but let me know, EDW. Yes, we do, actually. We're working on one right now, matter of fact. So you'll see some vertical data warehouses. So it'll ask you what kind of company you are, if it's retail, commercial, whatever, and it kind of specs out how to build a project. This is the amount of time for this, and so on, based on the tables you have and whatnot. So we are adding some new tools around that. But this is a really cool tool to help you kind of start a conversation with your project manager. Notice you can export this to Excel or PDF also. So the Excel spreadsheet, you pass it around to your team, and you say, all right, team, you go ahead and highlight the ones you actually need to convert. And you'll see there a cost estimate around that. And whichever ones you don't want to convert, no problem, let me know. We'll leave that up our list. But this starts that conversation with your team. Okay. So the next piece is once we have that number, we're ready to convert. Now, DTS Exchange will convert some packages for free for you. I think it's a limited number, but it does convert some packages for free. It's licensed per package. You can see my license count right here. So you only have to pay for what you use. When I hit convert right now, I'm going to convert them from this directory to this directory. Notice we can also point from a SQL Server here also. A few things about this. It supports any version of SQL Server. Right now I'm going to 2008 in my case. You'll also see in this case that it's going to connect, and I need to specify, do I want to support 64-bit machines? Now this is going to be important because some providers you're using in DTS, some of the Oracle providers for example, may not support 64-bit. So if we see that you have a 64-bit machine, and you say yes to that question, then we'll actually give you recommendations, or we'll actually recode your package to work on 64-bit. So we'll say, it looks like you've got a 64-bit provider for Oracle installed, and we'll make that switch around to make that package work. Other things we'll do is we're actually going to connect and perform validation against the source and destination. So when you're running this conversion process, you want to make sure you have connectivity to the source and destination servers. The reason why is it's actually going to connect to that source and connect to that destination, and it's going to perform validation against that and create a better package out of that. It's going to say, well, over here I have a varchar, over here I have a numeric field. I need to add some conversion processes in place to make sure that that will actually convert. All right, after that, we'll select the packages we want to convert. Hit next again. Now, this is the most important screen right here. These are the set of rules that we're going to make sure that we convert each package to. So not only are we going to migrate your packages, but we're also going to set up some rules around that conversion. So for example, in SSIS, we have something called config files, where we can change a config file one time, and every single package that points to that config file will now swing from development to QA to production. Really simple process inside of SSIS. So inside of DTS is a little trickier. Well, what we can do now inside of SSIS is, as I convert the packages, we're going to create a config file per connection, which is really a best practice around config files anyways. So we'll reuse those across all the packages, and this will apply for any type of connection. So we'll also convert any children packages. So if you follow the best practice DTS process, around having a master package called a child package. We'll convert those child packages for you also. One of my favorite features is this auditing framework. We created an auditing framework in order for you to basically trap how many errors and warnings and how long each package took to run. This is not for the conversion process, but is instead an auditing framework for all of your packages. We'll consolidate any connection managers also. So as we see connection managers that have the same username, password, connection string combo, we'll actually consolidate that. We have a number of other logging mechanisms we can turn on here as well. We can turn on checkpoints. So this is a really cool SSIS functionality. Now this is not us. This is just SSIS in general. So with checkpoints, what that does for you is it basically enables the ability to have package restart ability. So imagine a package that fails on step 10 of step 15. Well, we can fix the problem, rerun the job again, and it will start where it left off at. Checkpoints are a really amazing feature, and we can turn that on here. We also have the ability to turn on transactions. Again, this is an SSIS feature, not an US feature. Now, this is kind of a neat feature. This is basically going to, in DTS, it was a lot more forgiving about how to handle nulls. In other words, if I try to load a null column into a integer, for example, or a blank column, rephrase it, a blank column into an integer, it would do some implicit conversions for me in DTS. It would convert it into a null. Well, SSIS is not so forgiving. So in SSIS, we're going to read that. We're going to create some derived column code to basically convert blank data into null data if the destination will allow it. Okay, so it's all based on the destination column if it's nullable. The code pages will support international companies with their code pages, like quite a few Chinese companies and whatnot. We'll also convert all the OLADB providers to SQL native client. So for extra performance and extra goodies that you get there, we'll do that conversion for you, and we support 64-bit as well. All right, so one of the important pieces around this as well that we didn't have in DTS is the ability to basically password protect our packages. So what we'll see here, first of all, is if the protection level of the package, what this property means, is how do we want to protect our packages. Now this is an SSIS feature, not a feature as a DTS Exchange feature, but an SSIS feature. So what that means is by default, the package will be encrypted with our user key. So let's imagine that Andy and I are on the same team. And I convert this package and it has passwords inside of it. DB2 passwords and Oracle passwords and SQL passwords inside of it. Well, by default, Andy will not be able to run this package. So I'll let it convert it. I can run it all day long. What's happened is this package is securing all that sensitive password data with my user profile on my machine only. So when I go to deploy this package to production, it will cease to work. It will now get a login failure. So when Andy goes to run the package, all my sensitive data is wiped out. And he gets an error complaining about, a corruption error. So he's starting to pucker up right now thinking that he just broke my package. So that is not a great option for a team environment. The encrypt sensitive with user key. That's a default setting for SSIS. It should not be used for a team environment where you're not using Windows authentication. If you're using Windows authentication, don't worry about it. That's not going to be a problem. The next option, which is probably a more viable option, is the encrypt sensitive with password. Now, this encrypt sensitive password, this setting will basically lock down the sensitive settings with a password instead. So this will basically prompt Andy at this point for the password. He'll type it in, and he can run the package. You can see the secure data of the package now. So the package will still work now. So that's a good setting for a team environment where you're using SQL authentication, Oracle authentication, or whatever. The next setting down is for a Sarbanes-Oxley company. Encrypt all with password, basically prevent anybody from running that package unless they have your password. So that's a good one for it. If you're running a Sarbanes-Oxley kind of style of a process, encrypt all with password is one of the only ways of passing a Sarbanes-Oxley audit officially. Okay, those are 3 options. You can always change these later when you deploy the package, or also the bids environment, but basically what we're doing right now is we're setting those all to be the default. We can also change our scripting language via VB.NET or C#. When I hit next, we're now at the conversion screen. Now let me start this process. Now we're going to see some errors and warnings here. These errors and warnings are okay. This is because we're actually validating the package after we convert it to make sure it's actually going to work in production. So my voice may stutter a little bit here as it's converting. It's using a little of my CPU. So that error right now, we'll find out why it's causing that error. But basically, that error worked in development. For some reason, I'm missing something to make that package work. Now it's prompting me for a password. Okay. And it's also saying that, hey, you don't have access to a file, this file right here. And it really wants to access that file to read the metadata out and to create even a better package. Well, I'm not going to give access to that file. That file has secure data in it. So I'm going to hit cancel right now. It's going to keep on converting the package in offline mode. So it's not a problem that I don't have access to it, but it definitely converts a better process if I have access to it. So because of that, we're going to see some warnings right now. Now, right now, also, we'll see some contextual documentation about what in my environment is going on. So let's view the log. Okay, so first of all, on the right pane here, these FAQs that you're seeing, it actually read the ActiveX script and created contextual documentation around my ActiveX script. So it read the object model and said, oh, it looks like you're doing some looping inside there. So here's how you do a loop in SSIS. So I click on that, and it will show you the old code, new code. So that's what we're seeing right here. There's my old code, and there's my new code. So FAQs around that. If I click on this one right here, about the file system task, again, old code and new code. You can also use VB.NET, old code, new code. So it kind of walks us through how to actually contextually, from my environment, to convert those ActiveX script tasks. We'll also see I get an error. But let's do the validation summary first and kind of explore that. So I'm seeing two errors. Now these errors in this case, this looks to be like I'm missing a DSN. So yes, the package converted, but it's telling me that I'm missing some kind of driver to actually make that package work. We're also seeing here that I'm missing a database as well. So those kind of things actually help me identify. This error right here is saying, well, why am I getting this error? I click on it, and it walks me through some common reasons why I'm getting this kind of validation warning and what I need to do to fix it. So we try to provide very contextual help. But now that we've done this, let's go ahead and actually view the packages and see how this works. So I'm opening up a project right now down below. And this project, well, first of all, let's get the same package we converted before. So the same package, the ODBC package this time, that's hitting MySQL, we'll see now it looks like it's proper now. We actually see the transform data task. It read the source. Unfortunately, I don't have access to the source. So I'm seeing some errors right now. And those are okay, but we're seeing that it actually converted those pieces here, for example. Let me open up a little more challenging one here. So this one is, okay, this one right here. Let me save this off and run this package. So this one looks to be creating some tables and then loading those tables. As you can see, it actually, inside this, we handle the null handling right here. So we're seeing that if this column is blank, then let's convert the null. So we created all this code for you. We also did some data conversions for you. So we're converting this, in this case, looks to be a Unicode string, or no, sorry, string type to a Unicode string. So we handled those conversions for you. So all the logic here has been done here. Fast parse turned on. All those kind of things have turned on to make this a best practice kind of conversion. We're also seeing that it's done across all the spectrum. We're seeing that down below that we have all the connection managers being consolidated. And also, look at this. This little blue dot means that we created config files on that. So when I right-click and I go to configurations, we'll see that I have quite a few XML files that are basically my conversion documents. Now this is kind of cool. Notice that when I go over to see SSIS and the config, I have a free tool called installed here, the Community Edition installed, and it's called BI Express. Now the BI Express conversion tool basically allows me to double-click on this. This is the Community Edition I'm running right here. And it will allow me to look at this configuration tool, and it replaces this XML right here, and it gives me kind of a nice grid view. What's nice about this is it's kind of showing me where this file I was looking for is. I can change the location right here. And if I hit save, when the package runs, it's going to look at the new location, and it's going to write to the new location versus the old location. I can also stack lots of these config files on top of each other. If I grab all these right now, these are all different files here, so I can select them all at the same time. And I can do a search and replace, changing everywhere I see localhost to a new location, for example. So I can point to a new production server. So multi-select definitely works here. And I can also point to a configuration database one or two as well. I'm actually pointing to a file in this case. This is kind of a neat way, a nice little free kind of gadget you can use called BI Express. It's the community edition. This part never expires. There's no kind of like nag screens or any kind of mess. The next piece, when we give you DTS Exchange, we also give you BI Express also. And the next thing BI Express does for you is it kind of gives you this event handler code here. This event handler code that I actually gave you was actually added a row count here at start and at destination. It also gave you all this event handler code to track as you run packages, where do these packages fail at, and where's the history of it. So when I run these packages over and over again, let's say imagine, for example, I'm going to put a breakpoint here. So I love this part of SSIS. I can right-click, and I can put a breakpoint on this package. There we go. And when I run this package again, okay, so the question here from Keith here, if multiple packages reference the same configuration file or database, will the IntelliJ create a shared connection? It absolutely does. So one of the screens that I kind of closed pretty quickly was a rule. It actually has you, Keith, set the rule around that. So back over here again, under configuration deployment framework, it actually says, do you want to create one per package, or do you want to create one per connection? And they actually create a shared connection per one. So that's a great question. So multiple packages will definitely work that way. Okay, so I changed one place, and it changes across all the spectrum. So let me tell this to keep on going. Now, why I put that breakpoint in place was to kind of make that package look like it took longer to run. And if I open up DTS Exchange or BI Express, notice that inside of this I got a new window right here where I can go and select this monitoring framework here. I can also select it from here, monitoring. It's all the same stuff. Or inside DTS Exchange, I can go back into the home page again and hit monitoring here. It all takes you to the same spot. So let's open this up and see what kind of auditing frameworks really have best practice for SSIS. So in this case, notice that when I go over to here, first of all, I can see a picture of the packages that have been running. These are the packages that have been running. I can see how long each step took to run, how many rows came in, how many rows went out. I can see the data flow, okay, and then where actually I have a breakdown of the packages here. That feature wasn't supported in that release. Let me go back over here. So I can see a picture of the data flow right here, and what the data flow looked like, and where my slowdowns are. I can also then, I'm just going to briefly here, but I can also, back in the control flow here, again, stack these packages on top of each other. And notice that if there's any kind of record set here, any kind of loop that's occurred. Do I have a loop here? I thought I had a loop. There we go. I have a loop inside of this. If I have a loop, I can select this one, and I can see what files it processed or what the loop actually did. Not very interesting in my case, but if there's any kind of errors, I can see the error down here, double-click, and actually identify the error much faster. And as variables change, I'll see all the variables and how they change as well. Okay, so I can see the connection managers down here. So I'm able to debug visually what broke in my package. I can also go back over here to reports and get a list of all the reports. Some of these pieces are with the free edition, the community edition of BI Express. Now let's say, for example, I want to see which packages broke last night. I can select this, and across my entire environment, I can see this dim product package. Give me some warnings. Here's who ran it, and I hit View Diagram, and I can see a picture of the package when it ran. So I'm kind of recreating history here. One of my favorite new reports that we give is a standard deviation report, and it's part of our free edition. Now notice this time it's saying this package usually takes about 22 seconds to run. Well, this time it took 51 seconds to run, so the package is either hung or something has changed in my environment. And we can see kind of a breakdown there. It went in 1 second, now it's taking 51 seconds. So something's different, and we can kind of identify that here and kind of drill into it. Well, we want to find out why is my package running slow. We can dig deeper into the package here and figure out, well, it looks like this package ran recently. This one data flow is taking the longest. And it's because, and all the breakdown is really in the source here. You can kind of look at those packages over time. In my case, I don't have anything interesting, so I'm only looking at the past 5 days here. But if I go view parameters, I can see more right here. So I can select different servers I want to see, or look at the past 50 days, perhaps, of history, and view the report again. So now I'm seeing this package right here. Uh-oh, DEM product now is taking much longer. And here, this right here is taking the longest, and there it goes. From 3.5 to 6.5 seconds. And it looks to be because of this one component right here. So we can get down to the data flow component level. So that's one of the things that we provide you. The other thing that's really interesting is really ActiveX conversions. If I go to this ActiveX here, you'll see that it's actually doing a whole bunch of stuff. So most commonly, people would do ActiveX for doing the following, like maybe seeing a file exist, renaming a file, moving a file. Well, seeing a file exist has been replaced with the file system task. The file system task will help you move files, rename files, copying files, all those kind of things can be done with the file system task. Really, really simple piece. Looping, like you're seeing right here, looping over a whole bunch of files, is done now with the for each loop container. This can actually loop over n number of files and process the files all sequentially here. All you have to do is decouple this and move all of your chunk of code into that for each loop, and it will now do a looping over that. There we go. Pretty simple to configure. We have webinars just on that one piece by itself. The other pieces, like maybe you want to see if a file exists or a file's in use or whatnot. So to see if a file exists, I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to right-click, and I have this feature in BI Express turned on called snippets. I don't like the script in SSIS. I want to see if the file is in use. I'll hit next. I'm going to use VB.net here also. When I hit next, which file do I want to see if it exists? Well, I have a connection manager here, and it is called flat file there. And I'm going to put the answer of the file exists question into this new variable right here. So when I hit start, it's going to drop the code without me having to do all the coding and drop the code right here. So I'm going to drag that line down, and now I want to see if that file exists, and only if the file exists, run that code. So you'll see it created a variable over here called file is locked. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on that green line, and I'm going to change this to an expression. And I'm going to say, all right, if that variable is true, or false, excuse me, the file is not locked, then run that block of code. So that's how you can run conditional kind of expressions, conditional logic inside of this. Now, for more information on this, by the way, you can go to pragmaticworks.com/cheat sheet, or if you want to, you can go to pragmaticworks.com, and you'll see under webinars that there is a webinar later this month on SSIS variables and expressions, all about just how to do that one piece. How do you make a package dynamic? So, for example, if I want to make this connection manager right here dynamic, or I want to make a property inside of SSIS dynamic, and I want to have it point to a variable, I can select this this connection right here. I can go to my properties, and we can go over to the expression property and hit the ellipsis button. And I can say, I want to tie my connection string into a new variable. Now that variable is right here. I'll just drag down some kind of fake variable right now, but you get the idea. So every time I touch that connection manager, it will reconfigure the package to point, or reconfigure the connection to point to that. So, yeah, so the question is from a few people in the audience is, are we planning on storing to connect these webinars for future viewing? We absolutely do. If you go to our webinar page, you can go to past webinars, and we have over 100 webinars now at this point, all right here. And if you were to search for expression, for example, there we go, you'll find a whole bunch of the expression language right here. So very, very easily accessible for you. And if you search for something, if you're curious about MDX, for example, type in MDX, and you'll see a whole bunch of MDX examples here as well. There's tons and tons of webinars. We post all of our webinars for free. All right, these are all free, by the way, also. So again, if you're looking for that, if you go back to our home page and you go to products, you'll see in here BI Express, and you'll see also Task Factory. Both of these, BI Express and DTS Exchange, those are the two products I use today. BI Express actually has a free version of it, and you can download that for free right here. All right, well, my time is up. If you have any questions, let me pop my last contact info up here. My email address is at bknight@pragmaticworks.com. I hope you enjoyed this session today, and thank you, Rachel, for hosting us. If you have any questions, please contact me or any of my cohorts. And again, you can download the webinar today or any of the past webinars at pragmaticworks.com. And also feel free to go to our blog at bidn.com. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everyone.